What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Week 8 Early Waiver Wire Show here on FantasyInsiders.com. David Kitchen, joined by my hombres, Jeff Johnson, at Jeff Johnson FI on Twitter, and Ben Gretch. Ben, hello.
Hello. I'm just
You're
tweeting
typing
out the show.
Yeah, you are typing.
Typing very loud.
Tweeting out the show to the Twitter sphere. I think that's important.
Okay.
Sounds like you have one of those old school typewriters that somehow also is connected to your computer.
Yeah, you're rocking the RG hat and the FI shirt. Please note that I'm rocking the FI hat and the RG shirt. Jeff, you are rocking a jacket.
I am.
Indoors.
I am.
Jeff is our sideline reporter.
Guys!
Aaron, tell us what they're saying about Sonny Michel.
Guys, the running back just ran for 5 yards up the middle of the field. Back to you.
Oh, geez. I just saw the tweet that Ben tweeted out. It said, it's like, it doesn't start with a capital C, and then he puts me first instead of me last. He's our editor-in-chief.
Why would you be last?
We're doomed. Well, if you're not first, you're last, I guess.
That's grammatically correct.
It's not.
It is.
It's
also, I write lowercase on Twitter all the time. Why would I capitalize?
Because you're the editor-in-chief of FantasyInsiders.com, and we have higher standards than those other sites.
On Twitter?
Yeah. You don't have to. Like, capitalization doesn't make you not cool.
I used to capitalize all the time, and then it just.
Got it.
Yeah, I stopped caring. I'm just too cool for that now. I hit my teenage years.
Yeah, you got to think his title is kind of like being the king of England.
Right.
It doesn't actually mean anything.
It's irrelevant. Well, as far as week 7 goes, a little bit up, a little bit of down. You know, we had some injuries. We had some guys. Listen, if you're a Melvin Gordon owner, if you are a Sonny Michel owner, you've had a good start to the season, right? It's time that you came back to earth a little bit. It's time that regression hits your teams a little bit. Sorry about that. Sorry about the hamstring injuries. Really sorry about the Sonny Michel injury. That could be bad. We'll talk about that later. Apologies to your team, but listen, we've all been dealing with other stuff, all of our teams except for Todd Gurley owners. So it's just par for the course this time of year. Ben, I'll start with you. As far as the let's just assume like shallow leagues, Austin Eckler still there. Like, how would you rate him as a pickup with Nick Chubb and the other news, considering Sonny Michel? Like, where do you rank this like lower tier that in competitive leagues they're gone, but in shallow leagues they're going to be there, and you might have to drop a name that you drafted in the top 4 rounds beginning of the season?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like Gordon is only going to miss the 1 week because it was just his hamstring kind of tightening up on the flight, and he was a game time decision. And I would expect that he'll be back next week. So I'm not breaking the bank for Eckler. Chubb, if for some reason he's still available, if you're in a league he's still available, you should definitely break the bank for. I think he's pretty clearly was the featured early down back and going to play the Carlos Hyde role. And we don't have a lot of good, solid featured backs, and that's like outside, the top 10 running backs. So I think he's a top 20 running back in PPR leagues going forward. Got 18 carries today, 80 yards and a touchdown. This is a team that likes to run the ball. And he's got plenty of talent. So that's a side that we'll see develop as well.
Jeff, also in shallow leagues, Kerryon Johnson. Like, we've got all these guys that were drafted later that are now coming on to the scene. Kerryon Johnson, he had like 100 yards in the first 10 minutes to see him.
Yeah.
So he had a
Kerryon
long
Johnson
run.
should already be on a roster somewhere in your league. If for some chance you're in a 16 league, go ahead and grab him off of the waiver wire. But Kerryon Johnson is somebody I was high on coming into this season. I had him in the top 20 running backs preseason. So obviously I love his talent. It looks like the Lions have finally figured out that they need to give him run as a primary ball carrier. 19 carries today, at over 150 yards. And, of course, he's effective catching the ball out of the backfield as well. I don't really even care that LeGarrette Blount vultured that touchdown from him. It's just good to see that Kerryon is really taking his spot as the number one ball carrier there. If I had a concern as somebody that owns some other players on that Lions team, it's sort of like, what's the offense going to do from this point forward, though, right? Because you have Golden Tate, Marvin Jones, Kenny Golladay. 2 touchdown passes went to the tight end today from Matt Stafford, which is a new development as well. And plus you have Kerryon Johnson that fits into the mix there as well. So that'll be something really interesting to monitor as the season goes on. You know, one of those guys is going to have to suffer on a weekly basis. And it's kind of like a poor man's situation in Los Angeles with the Rams, where you have a lot of mouths to feed, and every week somebody's going to bust, somebody's going to boom as well. It's just going to be basically a rotating door.
Ben, did you?
Some weeks the Rams all hit. I don't know.
Some weeks, sure. Some weeks. And there will be some weeks where all the Lions hit too.
Yeah.
Plus, you have to.
I don't think it's a bad scenario if it's a concentrated offense. Is kind of my point. We don't really know how concentrated it's going to be or would be, and it hasn't been because Kerryon's been splitting work with Blunt in the run game and Riddick in the pass game. And you made a good point about the tight end getting involved today. Michael Roberts, 2 touchdowns. I think that's kind of a blip on the radar. I could see this offense still work pretty well with the 3 main wide receivers. I think it's a good parallel. I mean, it's a team that runs a lot of 11 personnel, 3 good wide receivers. They all play big snaps. They're all the features in the passing game. Tight ends aren't as heavily involved. And I think, I don't think Kerryon Johnson is going to be Todd Gurley, but I think he has the potential to play in every script. It's just a matter of when Riddick gets back, if they, allow him to play as heavily as he seemed to play today. So definitely very promising, though. He continues to just absolutely crush. He was had averaged 5.7 yards per carry coming into this week. Blunt was at 2.5 yards per carry, so more than doubled him up.
And that goal line rush, like I was hoping he would get in. He didn't. They took him out. They put Blunt in.
And then today he runs for, he didn't get the TD, but today he runs for 8.3 yards per carry. He had a 70-yard, run.
Yeah, that's what a 71-yard run will do for your yards per carry.
Continues to just look incredibly explosive.
All right, so good stuff there. We'll talk about Michael Roberts in a second. Jeff mentioned the tight end position. And
do we have to? Do we have to talk about Michael Roberts in a second? I thought we already did.
Well, when we talked,
Ben said it was a blip on the radar.
When we have deep stuff, I think you have to mention them. We got. It's like waiver week. We got Gronk could be out. They say he's gonna be back next week, but you just never know. You never know with tight ends. And by the way, I know Ben saying a blip on the radar, like it's going to be some noise involved with that, but Ben, you haven't seen all the snap counts, right?
No.
Okay, so I mean, you still have to.
Yeah, we got to look at Michael Roberts a little bit more. I mean, he could be interesting.
He's an
interesting prospect.
Shout out to D Wiley 1223 on the Periscope stream, says I hate Blunt, get him out of there. Agreed.
Wow.
No one likes Blunt. Or bunting.
But yeah, Michael Roberts, 4 catches on the year, 3 touchdowns already. So, what are you going to do?
Listen, if LeGarrette Blount's going to get 10 rushes a game, I don't really care. I just want the 15 for Kerryon Johnson. And then maybe 4 or 5 targets. That's all I really want every week from Kerryon. He's going to produce.
And the passing work. All right. Marlon Mack. We talked about him last week. I really hope you picked him up in competitive leagues and shot leagues. He's still there. He looked really good. This is the guy that people were talking about before the season, before Jordan Wilkins, before Nyheim Hines. He looks very good, and he and Andrew Luck are in sync. You put him up there with Tyrell Williams. By the way, shout out to Josh ADHD, who's not on the show tonight. But last week said Tyrell Williams was number 1 waiver wire ad. It's pretty cool. He had a really good game today, obviously.
My number 1 waiver wire ad was a Todd Gurley for.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. Jeff, Tyrell Williams or Marlon Mack, who would be your number 1 waiver wire?
Well, I mean, for me, it's Marlon Mack because most people are struggling at running back, and Marlon Mack is somebody who I think is going to continue getting a large share of those rushes. At the end of the game today, you saw quite a bit of Nyheim Hines and even some Jordan Wilkins, but that was because the Colts, who are not a bad team, got up so big on the Buffalo Bills, so they managed to run the ball with some of those other carrying options. So I think Marlon Mack is a great ad. He looked good today. When I say he looked good, I don't just mean, he had a couple of carries that he exploded with. He was consistently gashing that defensive line 5-6 yards at a time. He was catching the ball out of the backfield. The offensive line did a great job of creating holes for him too. So I think this is something that's going to be repeatable for him. On the other side of things, Tyrell Williams, there are a million wide receivers on the waiver wire. Maybe not a million. Maybe it's like 500,000. But he's good for a big play or two a game, and then he gets quiet at times. And I like more consistency at a position of need, which is why I'd rather have Marlon Mack.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing I want to mention about Mack, last year he had a lot of high efficient runs. He had a high rate of 20 plus yard plays, I guess, because he had some on some screen plays as well, and then had kind of a low success rate as well. Some stopped at the line. So sometimes you get the boom Mac like today. Sometimes you might get the bust Mac. I still want to see a little bit more, but he did look obviously very good today.
All right, let's talk about some injury situations and what it means for the waiver wire. By the way, Trey Burton, Tariq Cohen, Josh Gordon, all guys that had really good weeks this week. If you have them, kudos.
Josh Gordon looked like he was jogging fast on that big 60-yard.
Yeah. I honestly thought he was hurt.
Yeah, me too.
I thought that there was some oh boy, he just hurt his hamstring on that catch. And weird. He might be. But yeah, he was definitely looking like he wasn't running as fast as he could to get that 100-yard mark. Sony Michel, in that same game, he that did not look good. That looks pretty bad. And when you're taken off the field like that, and Ben, you mentioned what's going to happen to him. What they do?
Oh, I said they had to put him down.
Yeah.
Oh,
why?
Man. A little murder joke.
No, that was a euthanization.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, I talked to Bill Belichick after the game, and
they said if we had an update on him, and I said
they said they sent him to a running back ranch up north, and he's happy. So,
so Sonny Michel, obviously,
anyway.
Rex Burkhead, Jeremy Hill. We thought they had so many running backs, and if Sonny Michel's done for the year, we don't have an update now. But he was done for the year. They're left with James White.
He's a top 10 running back.
They're super thin.
And
White is
Varner.
Absolutely, yeah. I was just gonna say they're super thin at running back right now. That's basically all they have. Mike Gillislee, believe he's still a free agent. He's not he wasn't on their active roster today. But I would expect that Gillislee will wind up back in New England, or somebody, obviously, and that'll be worth watching.
You don't think they'll go with one running back only? Or two
right. And Kenyon Barner had 10 carries today as well and was, moderately effective. They obviously were willing to use him. So, yeah, there's going to be available opportunity in the Patriots offense. It's a good offense. They rotate backs. James White is, like you guys are right. He's going to be super valuable, but there's going to be somebody else there worth adding on waivers this week.
All right. So Kenyon Barner, is he the guy that you would, let's say they pick someone off the practice squad, or let's say they sign Mike Gillislee. Would you rather have Kenyon Barner, or would you have the guy they signed from the practice squad?
No.
You wouldn't like to have either.
No, I think there's another answer out there. We just don't know what it is yet. They're going to be bringing people in. I wouldn't be surprised if, who knows, maybe they go out and trade for Robert Turbin or somebody like that. But I mean, you can't count on Kenyon Barner. They already know what they had in Mike Gillislee. So there is an answer out there. We don't know what it is yet. I do believe that the Patriots are going to be making a move this week, and then we'll see from there. But I'm certainly not rushing to the waiver wire tonight to pick up Kenyon Barner or Mike Gillislee.
Kenyon Barner, he's he went to Oregon, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. He's the guy that I think, Jeff, you were talking about when you said a small guy.
Yeah, he's a little guy.
He's a little guy.
You kept telling me that Royce Freeman was the little guy, and I'm like, no, it's Kenyon Barner.
Stop.
That's the little guy in the Oregon offense.
Oh, stop. But yeah.
So that's why I was a little hesitant when you asked Barner or Gillislee. My take would be, that they're going to have to add somebody to be kind of the heavy lifter, right? I mean, that's what Sonny Michel's been coming into this week. In the three previous games, he had averaged over 20 rush attempts per game. I mean, that's a pretty huge hole, that LeGarrette Blount role. He had scored 4 rushing touchdowns over that 3-game span. So pretty big hole there to fill for somebody to get the primary rushing work. And it might end up being Mike Gillislee or somebody like that. You know, whoever the new Jonas Gray is going to be. We always reference that, you know, Jonas Gray coming out of nowhere, but it's not crazy.
3-touchdown game.
Yeah, it wouldn't be crazy for them to pull someone, even if it's not Gillislee, to pull someone a little bit off the street that they just want to be there between the tackles rusher and give him 15 carries next week, because you don't need to know a huge part of the playbook. They'll only play him on rushing downs the way they used to play Blunt that way. And they'll still lean heavily on White, but there's the potential for somebody to literally come in and fall into this plus game script rushing role pretty quickly.
All right. We got some questions. Let's talk fantasy playoff matchups. Who are you targeting for weeks 14, 15, and 16? Not there yet. Not there yet. Playoff.
Yeah, who asked that one?
That was JT05MI.
Come on, JT. Come on.
JT.
Weeks 14,
one week
15,
at a time.
16.
One week at a time, but we will get there, especially as we get closer. I think now people are talking about trade targets, you know, who they should trade for.
It's a good time to start looking at that.
And yeah, absolutely. Right now we're talking about the early waiver wire, not the long-term waiver wire for fantasy playoffs, but the early waiver wire, and what we think some of the implications from today mean going forward. Let's talk about this running back situation in San Francisco. Matt Breida hurts his ankle in the first play of the game, comes back, fumbles, gets hurt again, goes out, and Raheem Mostert had a decent game. They just were never in it. I mean, this team's 1-6. They're not good, but he looks semi-explosive out there, Ben. I know you were kind of down on him last week.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I mean, I was saying best case scenario, this guy's the number 2 back in a bad offense. But he rushed for over 8 yards a carry today. Today, he rushed for over 7 yards a carry last week. He's looked really explosive over the last 2 weeks, racking up some yardage on the ground. And then this week, he also caught all 4 of his targets. And I'm also a noted Alfred Morris hater. So, you know what? If Matt Breida is actually going to sit for a couple weeks and get this ankle healthy, which seems like it would be helpful, I could see adding Mostert for sure, and especially in deeper leagues where you're looking for running backs and don't have a ton of options.
Yeah.
I think I would be adding Raheem Mostert even if Matt Breida is healthy.
Yeah. I mean, he was out there. They've got Arizona this week as well. But I think the bottom line is Matt Breida is not healthy right now.
Right.
And it's going to be probably longer than 1 week before he is healthy. I know he's taken off the practice report, but it's pretty clear when a guy is taken out of a game 3 straight weeks, they're not healthy. And he's trying to gut it through, which, respect there, but I just think it's going to take some time for this guy.
Mostert, by the way, another small guy, but ran a 4.42, 96th percentile burst score, 95th percentile 40-yard dash for a running back. So very athletic, very fast guy, and he's shown that the last couple of weeks. So
he's cut out of the same cloth, really, as Matt Breida.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting that 2 running backs have very similar profiles. Heck, Jarrett McKinnon, same way. But
they like speed.
Last week, it looks like they really stumbled on somebody who is effective with the ball in his hands, whether he's getting carries out of the backfield or if they're targeting him in the passing game. He's quick vertically and horizontally. He looks decisive when he gets the ball in his hands. So I like him a lot. Now, is he going to be anything more than a flex play? No, I really don't think so, because he's not going to get the number of carries you need to be a number 2 running back on your team. But certainly in a flex play situation where you might get a big play or 2 in a game, he's somebody I want on my team.
All right. We've got someone asking for a game update. Stu Mag 001 game update. Well, the game update is that Kareem Hunt just scored a rushing touchdown, his 3rd touchdown of the night. Ben, I know he's not available on the waiver wire, but are you ready to admit that Kareem Hunt is better than David Johnson this season?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
And
No,
maybe,
I know.
and maybe a top 4 back, a top 3 back.
Wait. God damn. I told you before we came on that I need to take the L publicly, and then you take it like an extra step always. Yes, I was wrong on Kareem Hunt. No, I'm not necessarily saying he's better than David Johnson. I want to see what David Johnson does with the new coordinator. They just fired their offensive coordinator.
Sign.
But I was wrong.
You think
on
that
Kareem
David
Hunt.
Johnson could be better than Kareem Hunt has been, is what you're saying?
Not necessarily better than he has been, because Kareem Hunt has been rattling off touchdowns.
He's been very good. It's been very good.
Yes. And he continues to see targets, which I was more skeptical about than the touchdowns.
Yes. All right. Enough. You're embarrassing yourself. We get it.
No, I don't think so. I mean, if you looked at what Adrian Peterson did today, right? 100 yards on the ground, the way they were using him, they're just not just rushing him straight up the middle where he typically in his career had been successful. They're stretching plays. I think let's just say that happens with David Johnson. I think that really works to his strengths. Line him up in the slot as a receiver. They could do some pretty creative things with David Johnson, and suddenly we're looking at top 5 back again. I mean, saying that you think that Kareem Hunt is better than him, yeah, there are going to be weeks where Kareem Hunt outscores David Johnson. But
until like 2 weeks ago, they were like 2 points separated in PPR leagues, and Hunt has had a couple big games in a row, and Kitchen has just been.
He's cherry picking this week because Kareem Hunt had a big game.
Yeah. Yes. It's been just a never-ending victory lap since then.
Typical David, right? Typical David.
Is 9 touchdowns in 6 weeks good?
Yeah, so that's what we're experiencing right here. We'll let it pass.
Okay,
let it pass.
At Gretch is always losing to Kitchen. Yes. All right. All right. So
can you say hi to your mom for me, there, David?
Soccer Dave's in the chat on his own Periscope.
His own burner account.
Other injuries. LeSean McCoy. I'm just gonna let's just move past that. No one wants a piece of this running back position in Buffalo. Even if it's LeSean McCoy. I'm almost to the point where LeSean McCoy, he's like borderline droppable in this offense in like a 10-team league. I get it that running back is sort of thin, but he's never going to be that guy that we've seen in the past. Not in this offense. This offense is # very bad. So let's move on. Bilal Powell had a neck injury. How scary was that, Ben?
I actually didn't see it. I just know that he left and he didn't return. But again, Isaiah Crowell probably already owned. Not a situation where there's likely to be a ton of available opportunity. The guy that would be interesting is Trenton Cannon. Very athletic. I believe was he an undrafted free agent?
No, he was the last round pick for the Jets.
Okay, right. So four catches today, 69 receiving yards, got a couple carries. Somebody that, again, I know that his calling card he's very explosive and an athletic, smaller guy.
And I think they also had Elijah McGuire return to practice this week.
Really?
Or he's coming off the waiver. It seems like I saw that somewhere.
Sounds like you're pretty sure about that, David.
Well, I said maybe.
Yeah. I think Matt Forte practiced this week. Maybe.
All right. Yes, he came back to practice.
But he's on IR, so he's still after midseason. Oh, I guess we're already almost to midseason.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
That 6 weeks is over. So yes, he is available there, but just keep an eye on this Bilal Powell injury as we go forward. And then Kiki Kuti.
Left with a hamstring injury, not going to play next week, he already said. So I would expect it to be multiple weeks, considering that he's already said he doesn't expect to play next week. And he's had hamstring injuries in his past.
All right. Some more comments. Do you take Demetrius Harris seriously?
No.
No, thanks for the question, though. But we do not take him seriously. All right. Let's talk about some big performers and what it could mean for the waiver wire this week. Chris Herndon. Chris Herndon is a guy that I like. I know Ben liked him. We were fighting over who was going to pick him in our Dynasty League. Ben actually picked him before I did and then dropped him before the season started. So kudos to Ben for that. Chris Herndon, though, had a touchdown, another one called back. You know, this is another thing we saw in the preseason as well with Sam Darnold, Ben, is the ability for him to be like Darnold's kind of security blanket. He was the guy that he was going to. And last week, now this week, had 2 touchdowns, 1 called back. Your take on Chris Herndon when some people are really struggling with tight ends?
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't been taking him as seriously because they continue to rotate tight ends. They play Leggett, they play that Eric Tomlinson guy, and they still play a 4th tight end that I'm not thinking of right now. They've been playing 4 different guys, decent, at least some snaps over the last few weeks. And Herndon has been kind of seeing the most passing volume, but not, as I recall, the most snaps. But when you watch the games, I mean, they're definitely like creating scenarios to get him split out wide, get him down the field, kind of using him like a receiver today. Got him a pass early in the game, obviously used him in the red zone with the 1 touchdown and the second one that was called back or overturned or something. I missed how that touchdown came off the board, but it was
no, they called him down at the 1, so he was right there. He actually caught the ball. He was just down at the 1.
So, yeah, I mean, they're 7 targets today. They definitely see him as like a part of their passing game, and more so than a Neil Sterling is the other tight end, and more so than any of those guys. Those other 3 tight ends I listed combined for 5 targets today. It was a higher volume game for Darnold. He threw 42 passes, but Herndon definitely dominated that tight end committee. I think he's interesting. He's got a lot of upside as a rookie, and he seems like a solid pass catcher, but they're still playing 3 other tight ends, so it's kind of tough.
All right, another guy that had a good game today, and I think he is like the sneaky waiver wire pickup of the week because people have dropped him in their leagues for sure, and that's Michael Gallup. And let me tell you why I think he's a sneaky pickup, not just because of his performance today, but also, let's face it, what a lot of people do when they go to the waiver wire of the week, what do? They sort by whatever the site they go by. They sort by the projections. Whatever the site goes, they sort by the projections. You can see these are leftover guys, and these are the projections they have this week. Well, Michael Gallup is on a bye this week. He's coming off a very good game. He's not going to show up for those people that are picking that up. So I don't think it's going to be that competitive of a bidding process in the fab budgets. But, 5 targets, 3 for 81, had, the long catch, touchdown. I was high on him, really high on him for best ball leagues, and he's been a colossal disappointment. I really hope he can be the guy for Dak Prescott. Jeff, we'll start with you.
Was Ben about to say something?
I'm just going to throw in one note.
It's me. It's my turn. You sit there and listen to me talk for a few minutes.
Oh, Ben, go. Ben, were you?
Yeah, Ben, why don't you go ahead?
Ben.
Yeah, he just walked on it.
It's my turn. It doesn't matter what you think about Michael Gallup. I think that we're presuming a lot if you think that Michael Gallup is suddenly going to be the number 1 option for Dak Prescott. Keep in mind that Tavon Austin was hurt. Yes, I know it's Tavon Austin. He's terrible. But Cole Beasley, I think, is probably going to be the number 1 receiver there in Dallas going forward. As far as rookies and their progression, I'm more excited to see Traquan Smith. DJ Moore is starting to get more involved in that offense. Cortland Sutton as well out there in Denver. I just don't think that Michael Gallup week to week is going to be getting the volume that you need for him to be somebody useful on your team. We could have just seen the best game of the season for Michael Gallup. And I have to admit that might be a reality. Ben, is there something going on over there?
No, I agree with everything Jeff said. All I wanted to chime in and say was also last week he had that ridiculous catch with like however much hang time where it looked like he was walking on air and he didn't get both feet down. Originally, I think was called a touchdown in the front pylon against Jacksonville. You guys remember that catch where he just he showed off a vert that never ended? So it very nearly was back-to-back games.
His player comp was Justin Blackman, which
pick him up
on the field.
It's like Justin Blackman without the issues, without the baggage. It's like the
and every time Justin Blackman played, he was awesome.
Dominant. Yeah. So anyways, he's got a 97.7% spark score. So he's very, very good. All right. Any other ads as far as Gallup goes?
DJ Moore's the guy I want to mention. Torrey Smith reportedly needed x-rays. He's been playing a lot of snaps. He hasn't been super productive, but it's been part of the reason Moore hasn't played a full snap share yet. Moore's been efficient. He's also made some costly mistakes, some fumbles and things like that. But really high on him as a prospect. And if he gets a chance to play a fuller snap share, I would be jumping over myself to pick him up in any league where he's not added yet.
Yeah, and he's involved in the offense today after last week's 2 fumbles. So I'm totally on board with DJ Moore. Albert Wilson, who hurt his hip today, if he's still on your waiver wires, you need to pick him up because they were using him in a variety of different ways today, running the ball deep, short routes as well. So he's somebody that's like cut out of the same cloth as, John Brown. They're expanding his role on the team. I would go grab him too and just hope that the hip's not really a big deal. And I think Robbie Anderson, listen, the results weren't there today. He may still be on your waiver wire, but he did get a target. So Sam Darnold is starting to target him twice. He was targeted in the end zone today. Both times it was just an inaccurate throw. So if he and Darnold get on the same page, he's somebody that could put up some big numbers in the second half of the season.
All right. Quarterback streamers this week. By the way, the teams on bye this week, you've got the Falcons, Cowboys, the Chargers, and the Titans. So if you're playing a team that has Gurley this week, congratulations.
You mean Gordon?
Nope. Gurley.
Nope. Mint Gurley. Mint Gurley.
Mint Gurley. Doing a call. No, the other team in Los Angeles. Yes. Gordon.
Yeah. David's predicting a trade to the Chargers.
Yep.
Todd Gurley.
No, we do have some people.
Gurley bus week.
Yep. We do have some people still talking about trades as far as like teams are looking for guys to trade. So just stay on your toes there. As things can happen out of nowhere that we're not even like thinking about. Like that people like, Shefty haven't even predicted or saying that team, like no one was predicting that Carlos Hyde was going to get traded this season. We thought that it could happen before the season, but not midseason and definitely not to the Jags. So just stay on your toes there. Also, make sure you are subscribed to the Fantasy Insiders live Twitter feed, not just for this show, but also the first reaction videos such as those. Quarterback streamers this week. Andy Dalton against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay, listen, they tried to play defense today. They couldn't do it. They got lucky at the end. This is not a good defense. Andy Dalton has them this week, and he's just going to feast. Ben, we've been talking about Andy Dalton week after week. He just has a great schedule, this included.
Yeah, and probably not available because of all the great matchups he's had. I mean, people are probably streaming him and then just holding him because it's been a really solid run for him schedule-wise. But if he is available, yes, he's at home against Tampa Bay, just another perfect spot.
All right, other streamers, Jeff, you got Derek Carr versus Indy's defense. Thoughts there?
Don't hate it, but I don't love it at the same time. He's throwing the ball a ton. He just doesn't have many pass-catching options. I'd rather have Case Keenum against the Chiefs than Carr in that Colts matchup. I hope it's a high-scoring matchup because I want to see as many Andrew Luck passes as possible. But I don't mind either one of those as somebody you can pick up and stream in Week 8.
And then the next guy, listen, this guy just loves TDs. Like he really loves he loves TDs. He loves rushing for touchdowns. He loves kissing TDs. He loves throwing for TDs. It's Mitch Trubisky, and he's got the Jets this week. He had 81 yards rushing today. He had
a couple of big TDs today too.
Yes, 333 yards passing. This is beginning to be a trend for him now.
Yep. If he's still available in a league, I think he's a pickup and he's a play this week with a good matchup at home. The Jets are decent defense, but he's back at home, and I think he's a hold, and until he lays an egg.
Would you rather have like he or Stafford going forward?
Trubisky.
Stafford for me.
I think that's where we're at.
Trubisky made some really bad throws today, by the way. He had 2 that should have been intercepted in the end zone. I don't know if you can depend on him to rush for 80 yards every single week. But
probably not.
Probably not. But he's going to be using his legs quite a bit, so that helps his floor out quite a bit as well. And, he's throwing the ball a lot. It's a good offense that's moving up and down the field. It continues to evolve as the season goes on. And Stafford, I feel like we just know what he is, right? Like, especially Like it's been like the last 3 years. And if Kerryon Johnson's going to start getting more carries with the ball, I feel like Stafford's probably going to suffer a bit.
Yeah, I mean, Stafford hasn't been bad since week 1. He's had 15 or more PPR points each game in the last 5 games. He's had multiple passing touchdowns in each game in the last 5 games. It's just the yardage hasn't always been there. They do like to run when they get up and be a little conservative, or they've shown that a little bit more lately. So it's hurt his value a little bit, but he's going to throw. He's got all these weapons. He's going to throw multiple touchdowns most weeks to guys like Galladay, Tate, Jones. I mean, he's still, I think, a back-end QB1.
All right. Good stuff there. Guys, we appreciate you being on the show with us. We appreciate everybody that was watching. Make sure you stick around this week for don't I don't know where
Just
that was.
stick around. Just stick around.
Just be here. Be here. We'll be there for you. But no, pay attention this week because we got Stealing Signals coming out. We got some other cool stuff that are coming out on Fantasy Insider. Josh ADHD could be here tonight, but he's got tools he's releasing every week on the site. A lot of cool stuff there. So get over to fantasyinsiders.com and start playing with our tools. I mean, that's really what we want you to do. And follow us on Twitter at Fantasy Insiders, at Jeff Johnson FI, at Yards Per Gretch, and then at Soccer Dave, SOCRDAVE. And that will do it for the show. Thanks to our producers, and we'll see you next week on the Week 9. We're already on like Week 9 next week. Like that's crazy. It's craziness. So we'll have a lot to talk about for Week 9. It'll be the Week 9 early waiver wire show here on fantasyinsiders.com.